So the first thing that we're going to need to do is create that new activity to show a particular user's feed. So let's go ahead and go up to Android Studio. We're going to do File, New, and we want to do a new activity. So let's select an empty activity. And as far as the name goes, maybe we could do something like user feed activity. And with that in place, we'll go ahead and hit finish there. So let's work on the visual side of this first. I'm going to move over to this activity user feed. Let's go ahead and give ourselves some space. And the first thing that we want to add here is a linear layout. So let's go to our layouts. We want a vertical linear layout because basically the idea is we're going to have a bunch of images in here. It could only be one image, but it could be a ton. So we want to have that option. So let's go ahead and make sure this gets pushed all the way to the edges. Go ahead and add those constraints. In fact, I might just go ahead and zero all these out because I want that to go to the very edge there. Okay. Update that. And boom, that is going to fill up the entire screen. So with that in place, let's go ahead and give this a proper ID here. Let's just maybe call it Lin Layout for short. And now that we have access to that, we can then go ahead and start working with it. So let's move over to the user feed activity. And the first thing that we want to do is we want to at least prove that we can add something to this. So we're just going to add that Instagram image that we have, and then we'll worry about downloading and stuff. But first, let's get access to our linear layout, which we're just going to call Lin Layout. Say this is equal to find view by ID r.id.lin layout. Good. Once we have access to that, we want to get access to an image view. And so we are going to go, or we want to create a new image view. So I guess I should take a moment to mention this. This linear layout, we are going to programmatically add in a bunch of image views there. So now we are creating an image view. So image view, and we'll just go ahead and call it lowercase image view, is equal to, we want to do a new image view, just like that. And we're going to pass inside of here the context. So we'll just say get application context, and that's going to be the only thing we pass in for now. Then we have to go set up the sizing for this image view. So we're going to say image view, let me spell that out, image view dot, and we want to do set layout, and we want to do params. So go all the way down to the bottom there. And then with this, we want to do a new capital view group. And we want to do the view group with just params, not the margin layout params. So just layout params like that. And then within here, we're going to have some options. So I'm just going to go make a new line. One of the things that we're going to do is capital view group dot layout params, there it is down there, dot capital match parent. So that's where we're going to say, okay, just go ahead and match the parent for the width. And then as far as, you know, the length of this thing goes, so we've set the height, now we need to set the length. We are going to say capital view group dot layout params dot wrap content. Okay, so we'll go ahead and have those two things passed in. So with that in place, let's go ahead and then take this image view and add an image to it. So we're going to take image view dot set image drawable, and with that we need to get access to our Instagram image that we have right inside of here. If we go to our drawable, you can see we got that Instagram.png. So what we're going to do is we need to get resources, and on that we're going to say dot get drawable, and then inside of there, this is where we're going to pass capital R dot ID dot, and then we want to do our Instagram, oh excuse me, R dot drawable. I'm so used to doing R dot ID, and with this then we want to do Instagram like that. So that'll go ahead and get what we're looking for there. So with this in place, we're then going to add that to our linear layout. So we're going to say lin layout dot add view, and what we want to add is the image view that we just had from before. Now this is all good. This should add that Instagram to the image view and the image view into the linear layout, but we have to have a way to get to this. So if we go back to our user list activity, we want to make it so that when someone selects a particular user, that we can go and check that out. So we're going to have to write a little bit of code here. Let's get down to our onCreate method. And that's onCreate for the menu options. Here we go. So as we're going through creating the array adapter and all this different stuff, after we get the list view, this is where we should set up an onClick listener. So let's get access to our list view, and on this we are going to say .set on item click listener. So we need to do a new capital adapter view onClick item listener. And what we want to do is if someone taps on one of these, we want to create an intent to move over to the next activity. So we're going to make a new intent. We'll call lowercase intent, and this is equal to a new capital intent. Let's go ahead and pass in the get application context, and we also want to pass in capital user feed activity, which is that new activity that we just made, and we'll just say .class. All right, so that says where we want to go. Let's go ahead and put a little bit of information in here because we want to say what user it was that was selected so we can go get the images for that user. We're not going to be dealing with that right now, but we will need it eventually. So we're going to say intent.putExtra, and for the term username, we want to add whatever the username was that was selected. So we're going to say usernames, right, which is that array list dot get. And we want to get at position I because that's the number that they selected on the particular index. So with all of that in place, we can say start activity, and we'll pass the intent right inside. And now we're at a position that we can go and test this. So again, we're not going to have any images show up that are actual images for a particular user, but it should show that Instagram image, that logo that we have whenever we click on any of the users. So we just want to make sure that our code for adding an image view to the linear layout all works. So we'll go ahead and give a second here to wait for this. There we go, it's all finished up. So we can see the app coming here. Let's sign in, or let's just go ahead and make a new user. We'll call this user Jane, password ABC123. We'll sign up. Okay, when we do that, look, we have some users. Let's say we click on one of them, boom. Look, we get that image just show up. Same for, Nick. It's the exact same for every user, and we're not downloading anything. But we know that we are able to successfully get that to work. So we're in a good position there. Now, the next step for us is to go and actually get the image. So let's move back to our user feed activity. And with this, we want to start doing a query where we can go get the particular image. So with all of this, let's go ahead and move up to the top here. We are going to create a parse query, and we are going to be querying for parse objects. So we'll go ahead and put that there, and we'll just give this the name of query and say this is equal to a new parse query of parse objects, and we need to look for the class of image, right? That was the new class we created that holds all those PNGs. So with that in place, we want to edit this query a little bit to make it more specific. So we want to make sure that we're only finding images for the particular username. So we're going to say where equal to, and we want to say wherever the username is equal to, and then we want to go and get whatever username it is that we are working for. Now, in order to do this, we have to go ahead and pull out the proper username from the intent. So we're going to go ahead and get an intent object. We'll just call intent is equal to get intent. And with this intent, we're going to say intent.get string extra, and we're going to pass in the name of, what did we define that as? Username. So we're looking for username, and I believe we have to put a default value in there, which we'll just do as an empty string. And we'll go ahead and look where this is. Intent.getString extra. String and intent cannot be applied to string. Looks like maybe it just needs the one. Okay, so we're going to put this in a new string that I'm going to call maybe just straight up username. I'm going to set it equal there. Okay, now with that in place, I'm going to go ahead and pass in whatever username it is that we're currently looking at. So that's where we'll get that checked. The next thing that we need to do is say where we want, how these images organized. So we're going to say order by, and you can choose, ascending or descending. I'm going to choose order by descending with a special value called created at. Now, in order to find this, we'll go back to our board here. So there's a couple of fields that we didn't set up, like created at, updated at, object ID, ACL, but created at just says whenever this was created. So we're going to use that lowercase created and then capital at. We're going to pass that in. That'll make it so that we are showing the proper images first. So go back to Android Studio and we'll put in created at. All right, with those two pieces in place, we are ready to execute this query. So we're going to say query.find in background, and we want to do a callback here. So we're going to say a new find, new capital find in, query.find in background. I'm not sure why it's not letting me. Oh, not find first in background. I just wanted find in background. There we go. I was wondering what was wrong there. Then we're going to do new capital find callback. All right. So with this in place, now we're going to be able to look through stuff. So first, let's make a big if statement that's going to check first thing. So the first thing is we should have E be equal to null, and we should also make sure that objects.size is greater than 0. This will assure us there is no errors or exceptions, and that we have at least one thing inside of this list. So with that, then we can go ahead and do a for loop. And inside this for loop, we want to get parse objects. So we'll say capital parse objects, which we'll just call object. And we'll want to loop through this list of objects with an S. So we're going to do objects like that. And since we have that in place, we are going to now pull the image out of that. So in order to do that, we need to get a parse file object that we'll just call file. And we're going to set this equal to, and we need to get this from the object. We're going to say object.get, and we are going to pass in the term we want the image. This is going to give us back a parse file, right, like that. Remember that name, image. So over here, we've got to make sure that we cast this to be a parse image or parse file, so we know that that's what's coming back there. Then the next step for us is we have to download, once we have a parse file, we have to download the image data from that. So first we went and got all of the objects, the image objects. Now we're downloading the actual images from those image objects. So we're going to say file.get data in background. So amazing that parse just makes these one-line things. Like if we were writing this out on our own, oh my goodness, so much work to do. But we want to do a new get data callback. So it's going to call this function when it's gone and gotten everything that it needs. So let's make sure we have the appropriate data in this if statement. Of course, check, make sure that E is equal to null, and we're going to make sure that the data is okay by making sure that that is not equal to null. So if we have that situation, it means that we have an image. So then we can go ahead and create a bitmap. So we're going to say bitmap. We'll just call this bitmap is equal to capital. We want a bitmap factory dot decoded by decoded byte array. And with this, we're going to go ahead and pass in the data that we got, which is a byte array. And we're also then going to say any sort of offsets that we need. Nope, nothing. The length, let's just go ahead and say the length of the data there. And then finally, it's going to ask if we want any options. I guess that's an optional thing, so we'll go ahead and leave that blank. All right, so with this bitmap, Then we need to do our regular code of, go create an image view, add it to the layout, all that good stuff. So I'm just going to go copy all this code that we have where we get the linear layout and do all of that and set it up, except for, I guess, that linear layout. I'm going to declare that earlier. So we're going to paste that inside this linear layout. We're going to add this up to the top, but we need to make sure that this can be accessed anywhere. So I'm going to cut this, paste it up above, and say this is where we're setting lin layout. So that should fix that code. So we'll go ahead and give this a run. Again, the basic idea is we're doing a query to say, hey, give me all the image objects for a particular user that has this username. Once we found those, we're going to get the parse files from them for the actual image data, download that. We're then going to create an image view, add this bitmap that we downloaded, add that to the linear layout, and that should then be displayed. So sort of a multi-step process here, but let's go ahead and give it a try. So the only person who has an image is John, I believe. So let's go ahead and look at it for John. So we're going to tap on John, and oh, we have an Instagram image. Well, I think I know why that is, and that's because I forgot to change this code, but it's still showing the Instagram image. So we're going to go ahead and delete this to where now instead of setting an image drawable, this is where we want to set an actual bitmap. So we're going to say set image bitmap, and then we'll use the bitmap. Again, copy and paste is great, but you got to be careful because there'll be little bits and pieces that you forget to change, as I just did, and it leads to wacky results like this. So we'll go ahead and look at the emulator, click on John, and boom, look at that, his image shows up. So that is successfully working. You could say we have a finished project, but there's kind of one big glaring thing here. There's a little, well, there's some other pieces too, but the big one is let's say I want to log out and I want to come back in as another user. There's no way to do that right now. All we can do is share or look at users' posts. We'd have to delete this app off our phone and then reopen it, which, that's not an ideal user experience. So let's go ahead and add another menu item here that allows us to log out. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back to our side menu here and open up this menu to edit a menu. That's kind of funny. We're going to add another item. So I'm going to just copy and paste this. And this one we're going to call logout, and it's going to have the ID of all lowercase logout. All right, we can go ahead and close that up, but now we're going to have to add some new code for whenever we want to do this. So let's go back to our user list activity. And we'll go up to the function when someone selects a particular item. So right now we're just checking to see if it's the share ID. Let's go ahead and do another if statement where we say else if, and we'll check and see if it's equal to the logout. We're going to say item.get item ID and see if this is equal to r.id.logout. Okay. So if it is a logout, what we want to do is we want to log the user out, which is just getting a parse user, all caps, dot log out, as simple as that. And you could just leave it there, but we do want to go ahead and move back to the login screen. So we're going to say capital intent, make a variable called intent, say this is equal to a new capital intent, where first we're going to get the application context, and then we're going to say, hey, go and move on over to the main activity. So we'll pass that in. And then we just simply want to start that activity. So we'll go ahead and do that and pass in the intent that we had created. So with that in place, let's go ahead and run this. And we'll wait for our emulator here. While that is running, I saw a little bit of an issue. I mean, you're going to see it here, but I don't like the title that we have showing currently. It says Parse Starter Project, which is kind of tacky. But anyways, if we go ahead and hit this logout button, boom, look at that. We come back to this screen. I can go ahead and put back in, wow, who was the user that we just created? Was it Jane? Let's see, Jane, ABC123. I want to do a login with that. And look at that. We got logged in again, but we can always come out. But I don't like this title. I don't like when we log out that this says Parse Starter Project. Like, all these are kind of a little bit tacky here. So what we're going to do is first move to our user list activity. So we'll go to our user list activity, and we are going to want to set that title inside of the onCreate. So we're going to go down to our onCreate, and we'll say just simply set title. It's that simple, and we'll just pass in the string of user feed. And with this, we'll go ahead and also set the title on that home screen. So we're going to go back to our main activity, and I guess we could also go a step further. Let's see, Jane, ABC 123, sign up. Oops, we want to do login. Thank you, error message. You reminded me what was going on there. We also want to do that for the particular image, so we'll update that as well. But in the main activity, let's get to its onCreate method. We'll just go ahead and say here, and I should probably do this after these 2 lines of code, we'll say set title, and we'll just pass inside of here Instagram. Okay, and then the last place that we want to do this is inside of our user feed activity here on this onCreate. Say set title, and if you really want to get fancy, we could use the username. So in fact, if we go ahead and do this intent code, I'm going to cut and paste this above. We could say something like, you know, that particular username's photo. So we'll say username plus, then we'll do a string here, apostrophe s photos, like that. So let's go ahead and run this. This is just going to add that little bit of polish that I always recommend that we add to our apps. So wait for our emulator friend here to load up. And here it comes. Here it comes. Here it comes. So you can see if we click on John, look at that. It now says John's photos. That's pretty cool. We can hit back. This says user feed. And if we log out, it says Instagram. So congratulations on creating this Instagram app. This was a really full-fledged app where we really focused. Some of our other sections, you know, we kind of learned a bunch of concepts and made different apps as we went along. But this time we focused all in on this one particular app. And that's sort of the same method that we're going to follow going forward. We still will have some variety when it comes to different sections, but I hope you enjoyed putting a little more time and effort into one particular app and making this awesome multi-activity app that we have here. So great work. We got more to cover, so let's keep moving.